In this video, we'll be looking into the important concepts of fourth module from full stack development subject of subject code 21 CS 62. So starting from the first topic we have is generic views. So they can ask us the definition of generic views, what are the advantages, and how do we handle the generic views, and an example along with it. Okay, so starting from the definition, generic views are a powerful way of simplifying the creation of common views for tasks such as displaying the database objects, handle form submissions, CRUD operations, and so on. So it provides built-in functionality for common patterns, reducing the amount of code we need to write. So instead of explicitly coding for each and every view page, you can make use of the generic views, which are like they have built-in functionality for common patterns, be it form submissions and all. They have a standard pattern, right? So you can make use of such generic views and like reduce the workload. Okay, so let's look into the example. So the first example we have here is from django.config urls.default import. Also you are importing the default URL configuration functions here, first step. Then from django.view generic.simple import direct to template function. So this view function you are importing. Then URL pattern is equal to patterns. You are specifying this pattern here. So this maps the URL to the direct to template view and specifies that it has to render it about.html template. Okay, so this was the example of how generic views work. So direct to template is a simple generic view. So it provides rendering a template. So here we are directly rendering a template, right? Next, it allows us to render a specific template directly into the response to URL request. So from the URL request, you can directly proceed to rendering a template, directly giving out the template. So that's how generic view works. So instead of explicitly writing here what has to happen further, you can just make use of the template, specify the template here, and direct to template, that particular view function would work. Okay, so more advanced versions of generic views which work with model data and offer more functionality are list view, detail view, and so on. So we'll look into this example once. So import generic views in view.py. Firstly, we are importing, that is from django.views.generic import delete view, list view, detail view, create view, and update view. So we have 5 views, generic views here. Okay, so we have imported them firstly in the view part. Next, defining the URL patterns in url.py. So from django.urls import path. Yes, we are importing all the basic configurations firstly. Then dot views, import my list view, my detail view, my create view, my update view, and my detailed view. So assuming that you have created all these different classes, you are importing it here. Okay, so after importing it, path my list view dot as view, and name is equal to my list. So here you are specifying, so here you are mapping the URL pattern of my list to this my list view dot as view, and specify that it has to render to my list template. Okay, so it goes the same. Firstly, for my list view I wrote, next my detail view also I wrote, for my create view it would be the same, my update also it would be the same, and my delete also it would be the same. Moving on to the next part, that is to define the views by subclassing the appropriate generic views and specifying the model and template name attributes. So here we customize the view by overriding methods like getQuerySet and formValid. So we'll look into this further. So here we have the function for here we have the code for views part. So from django.views generic import list view. Along with list, we'll also import the other views also, detail view, create view, update view, and delete view. After that, from dot models import my model. So you are importing the my model class. Then class my list view. From my list view, firstly we took the my list view part. Okay, here we had decided that we'll create my list view, different classes functions would be created. No, here the step from dot views import. So these 5 functions you will be specifying it in the view part. Okay, we'll look into it one by one. So class my list view, model is equal to my model, and template name is equal to, here you are specifying the entire configuration. Okay, the entire URL. So my app, inside my app, my list, my model list dot html. So again, the template would be my model list.html. Here directly you will be rendered to my model.html. Okay, HTML template. Next, I will be creating the same for for detail view also, for create, for delete, for update, it will be the same. Next I have creating the template. So again, as I have specified my model list.html, I have to create some template. When my website, when my the web application is redirected to my model list.html, something has to be given out as an input. No, something has to appear on the screen. So I'll write something in the HTML part. Okay, something in the template part, sorry. After that, I'll access the URLs. So accessing the URLs, access the URLs associated with your generic views in browser. Either that could be option, or I could link them to template using the tags part. So this was about introduction to generic views. So if they ask what is generic views, give a brief introduction of generic views. You can write this. You can write this along with the explanation. Next we have is generic view object, generic view of objects. So it is again a pre-built functionality to display list of objects. Previously it was just views part. There were some templates which were reflecting upon directly. The rendering was happening directly. But then coming to this part, we are making use of the list of objects. To display the list of objects, show details of single object, create new object, update new object, delete new object, you will be making use of generic view of objects. So in model part, class publisher, models.model, name is equal to, you are specifying the name, address and website. Next we have define def this method, okay, str self. So this method returns the publisher name. Here we have written self.name. Then we have class meta ordering is equal to name. So meta class is used to order the publisher's objects by alphabetical order, by name. Okay. Then we have the URLs part. So here we are providing the basic configuration. So URL from django.config, we are config.urls, import the entire functionalities. After that we have from django.views generic import list detail. So we are importing the list detail, and along with that we are also importing mysites.book.model import publisher. Next, after importing the publisher, here we have publisher info is equal to query set publisher.objects.all. So you are fetching all the objects present in the publisher. In publisher class we had the name, address and website. So all that would be fetched and stored in the query set. Okay, next we have the URL pattern. The URL pattern is equal to pattern publisher, then list detail dot object list, followed by that publisher info is printed. So here URL configuration maps the URL pattern to view. We understand that. Then here we have the publisher info, that is, it is a dictionary which contains the configuration of generic view. Okay, so it contains a set of publisher objects which will be used to view when we have for the generic views. Next we have query set. Query set specifies a set of publisher objects that could be used to view. Next, after this we have to specify a template. So here we'll be providing a template specification that includes adding the template name to publisher info to explicitly set the template used for rendering. So we'll look into the code. From django.config URLs defaults import star. From django.views.generic import list detail. We are importing the list detail. Along with that we are also importing the publisher model. Okay, after that publisher info is equal to query set publisher.object.all, again printing saving all the objects of publisher class to query set. After that template name is equal to publisher list page.html. So in publisher list page.html all the information would be stored there. This template would be used for rendering purpose. Then I have URL is equal to pattern. I am defining the publishers list details.object list publisher info. So here we have template specification, and along with that the template name which specifies the custom template publisher list page.html to be used instead of the default one. So after this we have a template example, that is percentage extends base HTML. So from the base HTML we are extending it. This is a child template. So block content, in the block content we'll write publisher, and unordered list we are from the publisher, from the object list we are taking out each and every content of publisher. That is from publisher in object list publisher.name. That is we are only considering the publisher name here, and we are ending for loop and ending the block here. So this is how the generic view of objects work. Looking in next we have customizing generic views. So we can customize using the information dictionary. That is, dictionary passed to generic view can be customized to include additional options. Along with that we have template context. That is, additional context variables can be passed to template by modifying the dictionary. So by changing the values in dictionary, you can specify or provide additional contents to the variables passed through the template. Okay, so this was two points about customizing the generic views. Next we have extending generic views. So this is again a 10-mark question which was asked in both the sample papers, so make sure that you cover these topics properly. And I would say that if you go through VTU code, or there are many other websites also which provide notes, the notes are not proper. They have just copied the content from ChatGPT and they've pasted it here, but then when you refer our textbook, no, it is different. So I have tried to compare our textbook and the ChatGPT and the VTU code answers, and whichever was easy to understand, I've written that. Okay, so understanding extending generic views. Extending generic views in Django allows us to customize and add functionalities to existing generic views for better suiting our application requirement. So we can extend the generic views by subclassing them, overriding them, that is the methods or attributes, or by combining them with mixins. So mixins are reusable components that provide additional functionality to views. So here they have basically spoke about three methods to extend the generic views. The first one being the subclassing them, second one being the overriding the methods and attributes, and third one being the mixins, by combining the mixins. So let's look into mixins usage. So we have the views part here. From Django.views.generic, we are importing the list view. Yes. Again, from dot models, import the my model. Yes, I'm importing the model which I had specified in the class which I had specified in the model part. Then class custom list view. So here I'm specifying my model is equal to my model, creating a variable for my model. Then template name is equal to, I'm specifying the entire URL, that is from my apps in my custom list.html. Then I'm writing defining get query set. So query set is equal to super.get query set. That is, the query set would be like the super means all the components would be present stored in the query set. After that, return query set dot filter. Here some condition, if I say some condition you can write, okay, is equal to true. That is, the query set is filtered out depending on particular condition. This was about the views part. Next, so in URL we have from Django.import, I'm importing the path. Then from Django.views, I'm importing the custom list view, which was specified here. And after that, URL pattern is equal to path custom list. I am calling, like, performing the configuration, okay, URL setting. So for custom list view dot as view, this one, and the name of this is custom list. Okay, so I am performing the URL configuration here. After this is done, my next step would be to create the template. So in order to create the template, I'll be for here we made use of one template, right? That is my custom list.html. So I'll create a template, my custom list.html, and I'll specify welcome to my custom list anta we can specify. After that, we'll do access URL associated with custom view in browser, or link it to the template using template tag. So till here it was like a normal generic view code which we would have written. Our next step is that in order to extend it, we can make use of mixins. That is, from Django.view generic import list view. I am importing the list view, and along with that, from Django.contrib.auth mixins, import login required mixin. So we are importing a login required mixin. So login required mixin is a component that will provide authentication only if the login happens. So only if login happens, we can access further the views part. Okay, so from dot models, import my model, class custom list view, login required mixin, along with that list view. So model is equal to my model, and here template I'm specifying it as my app, my custom list.html. So here I'm making use of my list login required mixin. So by using this, we can provide like ease to not writing the code extensively and making use of login required mixin. So this was about login required mixin. If we have to extend the generic views by adding extra content, how will we do it? So we have publisher info is equal to query set publisher.objects.all. That is, we are fetching all the objects from the publisher list to the query set, and after that template object name is equal to publisher, and after that we have extra content. So in extra content we are writing block list of book.object.all. So in the query set we are also adding book list containing all books to the template's content. Okay, context. Okay, so that we have seen how mixins could be used, how the extra content could be used. We'll see about the callback functions, that is handling the dynamic query set with callbacks. So here we are defining getBooks. So getBooks is a function. If this holds true, we return book.objects.all. Next, publisher info is equal to query set publisher.object.all. We have discussed this. Template object name is equal to publisher. Here extra content is book list and getBooks. So if you see getBooks here, it'll again recall back to the particular the function which I had defined here, the class which was defined here. It will go back, that is I am handling a dynamic query set with callback function. So here callback function is getting executed. Along with this, I can extend the generic views by other methods also, which includes filtering the query sets depending on some particular condition. So you can make use of return query set dot filter, and you can specify the filter there. Wrapping of texts, wrapping of function, and we have performing extra work. So if asked in exam, I would say that if you cover these 3 points and write a few key points about these rest of the 3 functions, rest of the 3 methods, you can easily get marks. Moving on to the next topic we have is MIME types. So MIME stands for multi-purpose, internet, mail, and extension. So it is a standard way of indicating the type of data that a file contains on internet. So they are used by the web servers, browsers to interpret and handle different types of data accordingly. So we'll look into the types of multi-purpose internet mail extensions. So the first one we have is plain text. Plain text means it could be simple text. Then we have HTML. HTML is the basic foundation, the basic backbone for a web page. Then you have CSS. CSS is used for styling the web page. Then in image, we have again 3 types. One is JPEG. JPEG is mostly dealt with photographs which have complex color details. Coming to PNG, PNG is about photographs which have the transparent background and they are simple. Then we have the GIF. GIF is the simple animation which is done. Next we have is the audio. In audio again we have MP3 and WAV. MP3 is the normal music file and WAV is the sound file. Next, coming to video, we have MP4 and WebM. So MP4 is the video file and WebM is the WebM video file. Then we have JSON. JSON refers to JavaScript object notation. So it keeps a track of, or it contains data which are of structured data type. So it is a file containing the structured data. And in PDF it is portable document format. Then in XML it is extensible markup language. Again it has structured data file. So this was the introduction part about the multi-purpose internet mail extensions. Next we'll look into generating CSV and PDF files using the Django. So this question is pretty important. It will be for sure asked in the exam. It could be for 10 marks. Okay, because we have to write 2 programs, one for the CSV and the other one for PDF files. So starting from the CSV code, so we have import CSV. Then we have from django.http import the HTTP response. So we are importing the CSV module here, okay, which is used for writing and reading the CSV files. Then HTTP response we all know. Then here I have unruly passengers. Here I have the data set of unruly passengers, okay. So it is list of number representing count of unruly airline passengers for each year from 1995 to 2007. So from this data set you will be storing it in CSV file. Let's see how it is happening. Next we have the function here, that is def unruly passengers request. You are specifying the function here which would return the CSV file as output. So response is equal to HTTP response, content type is equal to text CSV. It is returning text CSV. Then response is equal to content disposition. So content disposition sets the header, sets the response header to prompt the user to download the file as an attachment with the name unruly.csv. So that is what disposition means. Attachment is equal to file name is equal to unruly.csv. Then we have the writing part. So here writer is equal to csv.writer response. So here we are writing a CSV writer object that writes directly to the HTTP response part. Then we have writer.writeNow. So in writer.writeNow I am specifying the header row, what should be there on the header, okay, that is year should be there and unruly airline passenger should be there. Then next for loop, here I am specifying, so for year comma num in zip range 1995 to 2008 and unruly passenger. So zip range 1995 to 2008 and unruly passengers are the range. Okay, I'm specifying the range for unruly passengers data, and the data has to be from 1995 to 2007. And after this I am writing writer.write now year comma num. So I am iteratively writing the value of the year followed by the number. Okay, so first this would be written, and after that this would be written, and finally I am returning the response. So this line would give out the CSV file as HTTP response, and after that we can download it, and yeah, that's it. Next, coming to PDF. So looking at the PDF part, firstly we'll be making use of a library, that is report lab PDF gen import canvas. We are importing canvas from django.http import response from define unruly passengers request. Response is equal to, response would be, it has to be stored in PDF format, so application/PDF. Then response is equal to content disposition attachment file name is equal to unruly.pdf. So yeah, when output is printed, then it has to give out attachment saying unruly PDF has to be downloaded. Next, P is equal to canvas.canvas response. So the response should be in the form of a canvas. Canvas is used to render the PDF format. Okay. So next, p.drawString 100,800 year and unruly airline passenger. So this is one column header, and this is the other column header. And here I am also specifying y is equal to 700. Now looking at the loop part, for year num in zip range 1995 to 2007, I am specifying the unruly passenger. So here there is one space. Okay. One space given between year and unruly passenger. Then next I have p.drawString, that is imply these values here in iterative manner. For loop is there, that is first I have year, followed by that I have number. As we started from 700, we have to keep on decrementing the value y minus equal to 20, that is keep on decrementing it. And p.showPage, once it is done, save it and then return the response. So this, as I said, this question is a must question. It will be definitely asked in the 4th module. So make sure that you study these two programs properly for CSV files and PDF files generation from the Django application. So moving on further, we have syndication feed framework. So syndication feed framework is a high level framework used for generating the RSS and atom feeds. So it creates multiple feeds using the simple Python classes. So these feeds could be consumed by the users or by the application to stay updated with the latest content from our website. So looking at how it is executed, firstly we have is to define the feed. So here each feed class represents a different type of feed and content to include. Looking at the code part, so we have from django.contrib.syndication. So from syndication module we are importing the feed. Okay, next from dot modules import the post. Next I am writing class latest post feed, and here I am considering feed. So title is, I have specified the title as my blog and link as blog. Then description is also specified here, latest post. Then next I have a function here, def items self. So I should return post.object.order by. I have to return the objects. All these are considered as objects, right? So I have to return the objects in by the order of their publication date. So here I am specifying the publication date, and from 0 to 5, that is 4 elements should be printed out. Okay. Next we have define item title self comma item. So I am returning the item title here, and along with that I am also returning the item content here. So this was about the items part, and in items part I am defining the title as well as the description. Moving on further, second step, we are configuring the URL pattern. So in URL pattern, maps URL patterns to feed views from myapp.feeds. From myapp.feeds import import latest post feed. So we are importing the latest post feed, and along with that from django.import I'm importing the path. Then URLs is equal to path latest feed. So I'm specifying the latest feed, along with that latest post feed, this one latest post feed, the class which we had specified above, and name again, right? So here we are mapping the URL. Next step, we should include the feed URL in settings. So in settings also, feed include myapp.feeds. So in admin.site.url, there I am specifying this in settings.py part. After this, I can access by visiting the corresponding URLs in the website. After visiting the corresponding URL, I'll get to know, okay, so many, like these changes are done. I can go through these changes anta. So this was about the syndication feed framework. One more thing, we can customize the content of our feeds by substring, by providing the Django feed class and overriding the methods like items or item like item title, item description and all. So this will allow us to alter or filter the feeds to include specific content in our models and control how the models will be presented in the feed. So firstly, we defined the feed classes in the feed.py file, and then we configured the URL part, mapping URL to feed. Then we included the feed URL in our main settings. After that, we can customize our feed content and how it appears. Next, further moving on, we have sitemaps framework. So sitemaps framework is used to generate XML sitemap for files for our website. So sitemap is an XML file that helps search engine index our site. So it tells search engines how frequently page change and their importance. Looking at how our sitemap framework is executed, our first step is to define the sitemaps, that is define the application, the sitemaps, which is done in sitemaps.py. So here each sitemap class represents a different section or type of content on our website and specifies URLs to include these in sitemap. So we have the code from django.contrib.sitemaps. I'm importing sitemap. Then after that, I'm importing the post. I am specifying class post sitemap and sitemap. And here change frequency to weekly and priority to 0.9. After performing certain changes, define items self. So I return post.objects.all, returning all the items, and def last mod self.ob, I am returning object.modified date. That is also again returned. So my next step, so now that I'm done with defining the application in sitemaps.py, next is to configure the URL pattern in projects url.py. So here from django.urls import path, and after that from django.contrib sitemaps.views, I'm importing the sitemaps. Then from myapp.sitemaps, I'm importing the post sitemap. From myapps, which are specified above, I'm importing the post sitemap. And after that, sitemaps is equal to post sitemap. Here I'm specifying in the sitemap field. Okay. After that, I can also specify the URL patterns also. So URL patterns, again, it would be sitemap.html followed by sitemaps, and like sitemaps and slash name is equal to sitemaps, the same thing. Okay. Then next, I will be accessing the sitemaps. Last step. So in order to access the sitemap, I can write the website, the URL, that is http abc.com/sitemap.xml. When I specify sitemap.xml, I would get access to the sitemaps. So here I can access the sitemap using the subclassing in Django and overriding methods like item or last mod or items and so on. So here if we look at this entire part, so firstly we did was to define the sitemap in sitemap.py. Then I configured in the URLs part. Then I after that our last step is to access the sitemap. That's it. So and if any customization is required, I can customize it also. Next we have topic of cookies and sessions. So understanding these one by one, they can ask us to write theory along with an example. Okay. So if cookies and sessions are asked for 10 marks, it is pretty easy to write. I would suggest you to study this topic thoroughly and not lose marks. Okay. So cookies and sessions. So the first topic we have is cookies. So cookies are small piece of code stored in the client browser. So we know what cookies are, we have studied in CN. So they are sent to the server with every HTTP request, allowing server to track and identify individual users. So in order to emphasize the personalization, user authentication and all, we'll be making use of cookies. So here in cookies, the values are stored in key value pair. Okay. Next, cookies can expire after a certain period. And one more point we have is it is used for user authentication and personalization. Yes, cookies are vulnerable to security risks. That is CSRF attack or XSS attack could happen if they are not handled properly. So this was about cookies introduction. Or at times, if they ask difference between cookies and sessions, we should write these points and these points. Okay, both are comparing and contrasting. In session are the server side data storage mechanisms. So it maintains the stateful information about users' interaction with the website. Users' interaction with the website is stored in the server, that is done by the session. So each session has a session ID that is sent to the client as cookie. We get back the session ID to the cookie. So session is stored in server, ID is stored in the client browser. I hope you remember that diagram here. Request was sent and followed by that session ID was sent, again a request was sent, again a session ID was sent, and all that. Okay, so session is stored in server, ID is stored in the client browser. So it is used for authentication, tracking user activity, storing the temporary data across multiple HTTP requests. So compared to the cookies, sessions are more secured because session data stored on server and not accessible to the clients. As session data is stored in the server, not everyone can access it, right? Only the ones who has the authority and access for accessing the server data can only modify the changes here. Then it can be stored, session can store large amount of data, whereas when it comes to cookies, it can store small amount of data. So this was the difference between cookies and sessions. Looking at an example here. So but though we have seen the differences, they serve similar purposes but have different implementations and use cases. So looking at an example here, we have cookies and session handling. So firstly, in my app is the project name. Sorry, my project is a project name, my app is the app name, and views.py is in views.py. I am writing this code, that is from django.shortcut import render. I am making use of render, importing the HTTP response, define set cookie request. So response is equal to HTTP response set successfully, and along with that the response is also response.set cookie. So if you check this set cookie and this set cookie, there's a difference. The above set cookie is like method, and this one is the instance. Okay, so sorry, this one is the method and that one is the instance. Okay, so this is used to define the function and this is the method which we are calling. That is, we are setting the cookie here, my cookie, and cookie value is specified. Next, after this a response would be returned. Next we have defined get cookie. So for get cookie, it is my cookie is equal to request.cookies.get my cookie. So we are accessing the cookie value. Okay, so return HTTP responses, value of my cookie is my cookie. It was stored in this variable, right, my cookie, and it is further used here, my cookie. So this was for setting the set cookie and get cookie. It holds the same for set session and get session also. We should write request dot session dot get, and in previous one we can write response dot set session. That's it. So when we write all these four functions, all these four functionalities, then after that we can move on to the URL part, that is urls.py. In urls.py we'll write from django's.url importing the path. From .views I am importing the set cookie and get cookie. Along with this I'll also import the set session and get session also. Next, URL pattern is equal to path set cookie name is set cookie. Yeah, I am mapping the URL, that's it. This we know. Then again it holds the same for get cookie also. Next, after this I should configure the session middleware. So I should ensure that the Django session middleware is enabled in our settings.py part. So middleware is equal to django.contrib.sessions.middleware.session middleware. So by specifying this, we can make sure that the configuration is happened. Then I should run the migrations. So python manage.py migrate. Then after that I can run the development server. It is run python.manage.py run server. After this I can test the cookie and session handling. So I can visit set cookie to set a cookie, or get cookie to retrieve the value of that particular cookie. And in case of set session, I can set a session variable, session ID, and get session means to get the session ID back. So this was about the sessions and cookies topic. So again, as I said, don't miss out this topic, it is important. Next we have is the user authentication. So user authentication, again we have user and what is authentication. Understanding the definition of user. So in users we have the user model. So Django provides a built-in user model, that is this in this particular path, that is django.contrib.auth.models.user. in this particular package it is present. For doing user registration, I should enter the username, email and password. Coming to user profile will hold the necessary, all the additional information which is required for the in the process model, in the profile model of the user. Then I have the user management. User management is administrator can manage users, creating, updating, deleting accounts of user. So this was about user. Next we have authentication. So in authentication we have login. So by making use of the credentials, username, email, we can log in. Then we have logout. So when we are done with our task, we have to terminate the session. We have to end the session, right? So for that we make use of logout. Then session management. So sessions, like Django makes use of cookies and sessions to manage the session efficiently. Then I have password management. Again, I can modify the password, change the password, and further operations can be done. Next I have is permissions and authorization. So permission system to control the access to views and functionality within the application. That is, Django can do this. That is, permission system to the control access to view and functionality within the application. Speaking of groups, users can be organized into small groups, or any number of groups, sorry, and permission can be assigned to the group instead of assigning to the individual user. Then I have authorization. Authorization is views can be protected using decorators and mixins to ensure that only authenticated users can access it. Again, specifying here. Next we have an example for implementing the user authentication. From django.contrib.auth, I am importing the authenticate, login and logout. After that I am importing the user, importing render, importing the decorator, import login required file. Next, here I have the code. So define user login request. So this is the function. If request.method is post, I can like update the username values. Like I can take the username values, request.post username, which would be stored in username variable, and request.post password, which would be stored in the password variable. After that I have to authenticate. I'll make use of this particular function. User is equal to authenticate. What is the request? Along with that username, along with that password would be specified here. If user is not none, so if the user is valid one, then I can further process login request comma user and return or redirect to the home page. Else I can return render request login.html and present and provide error there in that particular page. Next I have else. This was for these two, if else. Next, if request.method is not post, I will do is return render request login.html. Again I'll return it back to that particular home page. Next we have this logout part. So login and logout both are required, right? So we have seen the we will see the login part. So define home def home request return render request comma home.html, that is to redirect back to the home page. And after that we have logout part here, that is define def user logout request, and we have logout request, that is logout request return redirect login page. So after the logout is done, we can redirect to the login page. So here the user login view handles the user login authentication, and user logout view handles the logs out the authenticated user. So this was about the user logins, logout and authentication and all of that. I would say that fourth module is a bit difficult, but then make sure that you cover all the points, all the topics which I've mentioned in the important questions as well as in these notes. First cover these points, first cover these topics, then you can look into the other aspects, other topics. So if you have any doubts, do let me know, and stay tuned. I'll be uploading fifth module pretty soon, and thank you.